If these leaked images are real, then Silo Season 3 Episode 6 is not just another bridge episode before the back half explodes. It is the one where every secret starts tightening around the same pressure point at once. Juliette is getting closer to remembering everything. Daniel and Helen are being pulled towards something they were never supposed to see. And Robert Sims may have just made the move that gets him killed. And honestly, that is why these leaks feel so dangerous. They do not just tease what happens next, they hint at which part of the whole system is about to crack first. What's up everyone, welcome back to Breakdown Epic. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Now, I want to be very clear about the angle here, because this is not a normal episode theory breakdown. This is a leaked images and leaked information style breakdown, which means the fun is in looking at what these stills and details seem to confirm before the episode even airs. And in my opinion, the biggest thing they are confirming is that episode 6 is where the show starts tightening the noose around all three of its main story threads at the same time. Juliette's memory, the old world conspiracy, and the internal fracture between Robert and Camille. Let's start with the thing that caught my attention first, the title, Drive, and the still of Daniel and Helen being physically taken somewhere instead of choosing where to go. That matters, because after episode 5, we already know they were not in control of that car. It was redirected. Which means episode 6 likely opens with them arriving at a location that is not just secret, but central.
And if the leaked thumbnail and images are pointing where I think they are, then that location is tied to P. Stenson and whatever larger project was being built around artificial intelligence, military secrecy, and the early architecture of the silo system itself. That is huge because it means Daniel and Helen are not just chasing the story anymore. The story is now pulling them directly toward the people who built it. Now, here is my first locked prediction. I think the surprising proposition in the synopsis is not a small offer or a bribe. I think it is a recruitment pitch. Daniel, and maybe even Helen, are going to be offered a place inside the future. Not metaphorically, I mean literally, a role in whatever underground continuity plan is being prepared. Daniel makes sense because he has the engineering mind, the public reputation, and the moral flexibility to be useful if pressured hard enough. Helen makes sense because she is dangerous enough to silence, but valuable enough to repurpose if they think she can be bought. And if this episode really does put them in front of the people building the Silo project, then I think the proposition is brutally simple. Help us build this world, or be erased from the old one. Now, let's rewind and connect that to Juliette, because the leaks also make me think episode 6 is where her recovery becomes much more active. Not just flashes, not just emotional fragments, action. She already suspects the pills. She already knows something in her daily routine is wrong. And after the doctor found one of the capsules in her drain, there is no way the people controlling her are going to keep playing soft. Which is why I think the water theory gets much stronger here.
If the system cannot trust Juliette to swallow what she is given, then the next obvious move is to put the memory suppression somewhere she cannot easily avoid. And if that happens, episode 6 becomes a race, not a race for escape, but a race for memory. Can Juliette recover enough truth before the system finds a new way to bury it again? That is the pressure this episode feels like it is building, and I think the leaked material is quietly pointing us toward one very specific answer. Relics are still the key. The premiere already taught us that objects tied to real memory can punch through suppression. So if the leaks show Juliette moving through spaces connected to her past, or meeting people tied to Silo 17, or getting closer to Lucas again, then that is not random. That is the drawbridge coming down. And honestly, I think Lucas is still the strongest candidate for the note and for whatever comes next. People keep focusing on Kennedy because he is louder, but Lucas makes more sense emotionally and structurally. He knows too much, he has every reason to stay hidden, and if he reappears now, it means the show is ready to move Juliette from confusion into strategy. Now, let's go to Sims, because if these leaks are telling us anything clearly, it is that the divide between him and Camille is no longer hidden. And in my opinion, that is where the real heartbreak of Episode 6 will live. Robert spent years believing service to the silo would eventually lead to trust, purpose, and protection for his family. Instead, he got passed over, pushed out of the vault, and forced to watch his own wife become more valuable to the system than he ever was.
That kind of betrayal does not just create anger, it creates clarity. And once he realized the algorithm would kill Juliette, erase a population, and still expect him to nod along like the muscle, he was done. But here is the problem. A man like Robert can turn against a system, but the system does not stop watching him just because he changes sides. That is why I think the leaks are pointing toward his exposure. The public handoff with the Pez was too risky. The nurse plot was too coordinated. Bernard being hidden below is too big of a secret. And if the system is really all-seeing the way people inside the silo fear it is, then Episode 6 might be the moment Robert learns what happens when the machine finally notices the person who used to be one of its most loyal enforcers is now working against it. Personally, I think his arc is moving towards sacrifice, not in a heroic, save-the-day way, but in the much sadder silo way, where he finally chooses people over the system and pays for it immediately. And Camille may be the one forced to make that final call. That is what makes this storyline devastating. The algorithm did not just divide a city, it divided a marriage. Now, let's talk about Billings, because the synopsis giving him and Hank a new mystery almost sounds small, but I think it may actually be one of the biggest practical clues of the episode. The supply thefts, Orla's death, and the tunnels are not random side plots anymore. They are converging. If the leaks show Billings moving deeper into that investigation, then I think the answer he finds is not just who took the materials, it is why. And here's my own theory. The stolen light bulbs, components, and old materials are not being sold.
They are being stockpiled for something hidden beneath the silo, possibly by a group that understands more about the infrastructure than even IT realizes. If that is true, then Orla did not die because she stumbled into a theft ring. She died because she found part of a parallel system running underneath the official one. That would fit Silo perfectly. One power structure in plain sight, another one built quietly beneath it, both pretending the other does not exist. And if Billings gets close to that, his conflict with the Pact and with his wife's underground sympathies suddenly becomes much more dangerous. Now let me hit the what-if section, because this is where the whole episode gets even darker. What if the proposition made to Daniel and Helen, Juliette's fight to regain memory, Robert's rebellion, and Billings' investigation are all being pushed toward the same outcome on purpose? What if the system is not trying to stop every leak immediately, but is instead measuring how each kind of threat behaves before deciding who gets erased and who gets folded back into the plan? If that is true, then Silo is not just reacting to rebellion, it is studying it in real time. And that would make Episode 6 much bigger than just the next chapter. It would make it the point where all the experiments, old world, new world, memory, loyalty, resistance, all begin to overlap.
Before I wrap up, here is the fast-fire version of what I think the leaked material really confirms. Daniel and Helen are being taken to someone at the center of the old world conspiracy. The proposition is likely recruitment, not simple intimidation. Juliette's memory battle is becoming more urgent and more physical. Lucas is still the strongest person behind the note. Robert is likely much closer to being caught than he realizes. Camille may soon have to choose the silo over her husband. Billings' new mystery could expose a hidden parallel operation beneath the silo. And if all of that lands in one episode, then Season 3 stops being about scattered threats and becomes about one giant system finally reacting to all the people trying to break it at once. But anyway, that is my leaked episode-style breakdown of Silo Season 3, Episode 6, and why I think this could be the chapter where every major storyline starts colliding for real. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think the biggest threat in episode 6 is Juliette remembering too much or Robert being exposed before she remembers enough? I will catch you in the next one.